everybody, and welcome to episode number 5 of the Let's Learn a Change of Seasons guitar series. Today we will be covering every single note, every single time change, every single chord progression, and a full, detailed musical analysis of Another World by Dream Theater. Now, I can definitely sympathize with the feeling of living in a world full of lies, deceptions, and false promises. Just like Kevin Moore's big promise to John Myung. He said, "John Myung, I'm going to be your keyboardist forever and ever and ever. I promise." Enough crying, you pansy. We're never getting Kevin Moore back, so let's just get into the first guitar part while we still have our sanity. That opening chord sequence hits right after that extremely fast 16th note run right at the end of part 4, The Darkest of Winters. Now, I had already made a video about that, so if you have not watched that, go back and do so right now. The first chord of the song comes off this blistering B7 arpeggio right into an E minor chord, which is played like this, right? So we have the E on the bottom, and then we hit the top portion like that. So this is like a super big E5 power chord, alright? We're stacking one, then another, right on top of it. That's just E, B, E, B, E. Big old big 5 right there. So, boom, ba. Pretty easy on the first chord. Now that was just a syncopated dotted quarter note rhythm, right? Every other chord has its own unique set of rhythms and licks that goes along with it, and we almost never really repeat anything either, of course. It's a Dream Theater song. We're not going to repeat crap. And this next C chord is no exception. We have to play on every single beat right here. So check this. Here's the whole entire lick. So let's break that down. We have a C chord right on the bottom, a C sus2 more specifically. That's like a bar chord on the A string, but we only have the power chord like this with the ring and the pinky down, and the pointer's going to take over the B and the E string as well. So, and we get that sound. But we have to kind of hit like the lower portion, and then you hit the higher portion on the second beat. So that's beats 1 and 2. Like I said, we're going to play something on every single beat here. On beat 3, we got to do this. And then beat 4, so 2 slidey time riffs. Let me go over the first one. We have 3rd fret on the B and the E, which is the pointer finger barred like that. And then we slide up to the 5th, back down to the 3rd on one pick, like that. And then we're going to slide in from above into the 7th fret of the D string like this. Above, 7, 5, 7, just like that. And that's just going along sort of this E minor idea. It's E minor pentatonic type of thing. So that 3-5-3 slide is just a perfect 4th interval moving up and down, and that sounds very nice and consonant, but there's something a little bit concerning here. Let's examine the note choices. We have a D and a G on the top here. That's the 9th and the 5th, okay? On this one we have an E and an A. That's the major 3rd, which is fine, and then the A is the 6th. Did you notice something there? I thought we had escaped all of this sophomoric nonsense, but it appears we have a 6-9. That's right, a 69. The Dream Theater boys really love doing the 69. Not exactly sure what it is they're trying to do. Whether they're trying to corrupt our minds, they're trying to subliminally brainwash us. Not exactly sure what they're trying to do, but it's working and it's absolutely filthy. Anyway, so we come off of that 7th fret slide like this, which comes really nicely into a B sus2, which is arpeggiated in that rhythm. Alright, so let's explain that a little bit. We just have a B sus2 just like we had a C sus2 right here, okay? So now we're at the 2nd fret. 1 and 2 and 4 in that rhythm just like that, letting all the notes ring out, okay? Now the interesting thing about this is we have a C sharp in here. Now a C sharp does not exist in the key of E minor. Look, we had a C natural up here, but now we have a C sharp up top. The reason why it doesn't stick out so much is because we're moving in parallel motion between those chords. We're just taking the same exact chord and then playing it downward. And the C sharp is also in the E Dorian scale as well. Okay, let's finish up this first ending where we have an open D power chord in a couple different positions actually. So like I said, an open D power chord, open, 2, 3, just like that. And you're going to hit it at a dotted quarter note rhythm. And then on beat 4, you're actually going to dip down to the 3rd fret of the low B like this. And you're going to play an open power chord like that. So you basically play the low B string on the 3rd, mute the E like that, and then play the A and D string nice and free like that. But you're also going to add a slide at the end. Ready? Watch this. Right back into the E chord that we had before. So all in total, D, D, low with the slide back to the E. And that's only one of 3 moments that we actually use the B string in this song. So the 7th string is not very prevalent here. Those chords come around again for a second time, but with some rhythmic variation. God forbid we play the same thing twice. For the second E chord, we're going like this. And ba-da-dum-bum-bum, ba-da-dum-ba-dum. That's actually a bit of a 32nd note rhythm there. We have 2 quarter notes on E, low E, then the E power chords. We're actually bouncing from low to high, and then we're hitting right into that rhythm. And that's over the course of 2 beats, beats 3 and 4. 3 and 3 and 4 and 4 and, just like that. Nice and tight on that low E string as well, with a nice palm mute on the bottom. Right along with Mike Portnoy's drums, of course. Then we hit onto the C chord like this, C sus2, same voicing, but we're hanging on it this time, no lick, and we're just arpeggiating from the top. Look. Just like that. A little syncopated motion there, nothing too crazy. Mike Portnoy also plays a very interesting drum groove variation on that as well. Check this out. Adds a little bit of flavor in there, and naturally, because it's a Dream Theater song, we can't play the same thing twice, now can we? The last B chord we play here is a little simpler than the last one. We just hit on a hard downbeat like this, and then hit the high E string on top, and then go back down to the power chord for the very last beat 4. Right into the D chord that goes like this. This time, a nice sus4 and a resolution. Now a sus4 is just when you have the pinky up top right here. And we're going to play all the way from the A string, by the way, to get that extra chunk. We have the 3rd fret on the high E, that's a sus4 resolving to the 3rd, the major 3rd of the chord. Very nice. Let's get that one more time. Nice resolution to the E power chord that fades off into the distance, into a dusty desert of another world. It's another world. There's no McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, or Wendy's anywhere to be seen. We eat bugs around here. Before moving on, let's take a moment to appreciate Derek Sherinian's massive keyboard part during that introduction. Those razor-sharp synth sounds paint a picture of returning home from a long, triumphant journey through fire and ice, only to be chopped up and served for dinner by my own people. Another world indeed. Here's verse 1. The soft, soothing sounds of the organ reminds me that everything is going to be okay, even as my head and my torso are served on a platter to the people that I once trusted. Another world indeed. The chords all remain the same for that section, so it's E minor as the 1 chord, very nice, then C as the flat 6, B minor or B minor 7 as the minor 5, then the D, sus4 to the resolution as the flatted 7th chord. Now the sus does not change the functionality of that chord, it's still a flatted 7th in the key of E minor. Now the first 2 times through that progression, Derek is playing completely by himself, so it's the organ and the vocal, James Labrie's very tender vocal, I might add. The 3rd time around is where John Myung joins in on the fun with these really nice tasty harmonics surrounded by root notes. This verse sets up the tone for the rest of the song with two lines of lyrics that really stand out. The first of which describing our current plane of existence.
Another world where nothing's true.
Perhaps all that fake news is finally getting to our protagonist James Labrie, leaving him with one thing left to say.
I feel like giving up.
I feel that, James, but we can't give up now. We're already 14 minutes and 20 seconds into this monstrosity. I think we're beyond the halfway point here, so we can't stop at this current moment. Luckily, the next part that comes in is very soothing. It's an acoustic guitar arpeggio line that sounds very, very, very nice. Check this out. That's nice. So nice that it gave me a woody. Now these chords are based primarily on voicings that use the open B and E string, so look out for that on each of these voicings. Now the first one starts off on a C sharp, okay? So the 4th fret of the A string. So that's a far cry from the E that we were in, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. We have 4, 6, 6 open, just like that. And a very beautiful sounding chord. That's a C sharp minor 7 when all is said and done. Have the root on the bottom, you got the 5th, you got the root, you got the minor 7th, the flatted 7th, and the flatted 3rd on top, making one of the nicest chords I've ever heard in my life. And the rhythm here is like this. 1 and 2 and. Very beautiful and simple. The next chord it comes to is the A sus2, or A add 9, and this is the flat 6 chord, like this. Alright, same rhythm and everything, even the same voicing, but it's shifted over. It's still a power chord with the open B and E on the top. We got the root A, the 5th E, another root A up top. Then you have the 9th, or the sus2, whichever one you want to call it. They're synonymous with each other. That's the B, and the E on top, which is the 5th, alright? So nice add 9 or sus2, whatever you want to call it, is the flat 6 chord. We then move over to this F sharp voicing that goes like this. Same rhythm and everything, but we have to go down to the low E string, 2nd fret. You skip the A string, go to the 4th fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G, and then the open B and E string. Now, this creates an F sharp minor 11th chord, okay? We have the F sharp on the bottom as the root, a doubled root up here, then we have the minor 3rd, which is the A, and then the B and the E make up the 11th and the flatted 7th, okay? So a very nice sounding chord. And this is reminiscent, it's not really reminiscent, it's an exact copy of what was going on in parts 1 and 2, the Crimson Sunrise and Innocence. I did a video on those two as well, so check for a link in the description for that playlist, okay? You gotta watch all those videos. That F sharp minor 11th chord, which is actually the 4 chord, brings us to the black sheep of the family, which is a G sharp minor bar chord played like this. So there's nothing crazy going on there. We don't have the open B and E string, so that's a little bit different. We do have the root, 5th, root, the flat 3rd, 5th, and the root being played on the top with a triad up on top of the big old power chord on the bottom. That makes a bar chord, so very basic. And for a very nice minor 5 chord to get us back to the beginning of the progression. Now, it's no secret that we've modulated hard into the key of C sharp minor. Now, this hard modulation actually makes a lot of sense once you look at it for a little bit. The C sharp minor, the key of C sharp minor, that tonality, as opposed to this, E minor, which sounds completely different, right? E minor to C sharp minor, wow. Sounds like it's worlds apart. However, C sharp minor is the relative minor to the parallel major of E minor, okay? Now the parallel major of E minor is E major, okay? You take the 6th, which is the relative minor of that scale, and you get C sharp minor. So they're actually a lot closer together than they might seem. The second half of this C sharp minor section goes through the same 3 chords as we heard before. The C sharp minor 7, the 1 chord, the A sus2, the flat 6 chord, the F sharp minor 11, which harkens back to the earlier sections, that's the 4 chord, and instead of going to a G sharp, we slide up to a B chord like this, with this lick on the end, which then goes right into the E. So let's take a look at that real quick. We changed the rhythm around a little bit. Instead of arpeggiating 3 notes, we're arpeggiating 2. And we're going like this, 1 and 2, just going all the way up into the open strings. And then we have this lick. We're at the 4th and 5th of the G and the B, alright? So we're almost creating an E major shape here. Remember, E major is the relative major to C sharp minor, so all this checks out. We're doing a hammer-on with the ring finger like this. And then releasing and hitting that again, okay? So that creates that E major sound on top of the B. So this is almost like a B sus4, but whatever. It just sounds good because it's within the pentatonic scale. So we have that again. And then we go like this. Slide from the 6th to the 4th with the ring finger, and then do this. So that's basically E major pentatonic, and picking the major 6 going to the 5 to the major 6, and then hitting an E again. Now that next E is a hard modulation back to E minor. So we only have 8 bars within the C sharp minor before we have to go right back into the original key that we're in, which is kind of nice because we're only moving away for a little bit, not taking too long of a vacation. This is more like a weekend trip into the Poconos, if you know what I'm saying. You probably don't know what I'm saying, but here's the next part on the acoustic guitar. Another very nice set of arpeggiated chords, but this time in the key of E minor. Now, I forgot to mention that that B chord is now acting as the 5 chord in the key of E minor. So this is a pivot back to this key. It originally was the flat 7, now it's the 5. And that first E minor chord sounds like this. We start on the open E string and come up this regular old voicing, this A string voicing of the E minor bar chord, okay? We play this rhythm, 1 and a 2 and 3, 4. So nice and free, a little bit of space in there. Then we do the same rhythm basically on the C sus2 like this. Bum, 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 bum. Pretty easy. And then we go like this with this voicing. The B minor has something a little bit different. Watch this. Very nice sound right there. We have a B minor chord, so we have the root, 5th, and the flatted 3rd, but that open G being added in there, a little extra dissonance right there. We have a flatted 6, okay? A very, very tense interval, but just makes for a very beautiful tension, if I may add. The D chord is where things get a little bit more complicated. This follows the same pattern as that B chord with the lick following it. Watch this. Pretty cool, huh? So that D has a lick at the end of it to get us back into the first chord. Now, we're starting that off with a little arpeggio, a D sus2 like this. 1 and a 2. Okay, so that's the first 2 beats. Right on beat 3, we go like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a boom. Now let's look at that real quick. We have to go from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret of the D string like this. And then hit the open G and come back down till we hit the open D on the bottom there. So that's actually the 2nd and 3rd scale degree going to the 4th. So that's like a D add 4. Okay, very nice sound. Coming back down to that open D, that's the root note, and then 5, 6, E. Just like that. Very similar to the other one, that E major pentatonic, as opposed to, right? You can see the similarities right there. And I also hit a little blip on the bottom there. Don't hit the little blip, especially when you're trying to explain to people what you're doing here. Doesn't help. Now remember that B minor voicing that we had with the flatted 6? Well, this time we're going to put that on top of an E, that exact same shape. And it's going to sound like this. Ready? That same rhythm that we had before. 1 and a 2 and. But now we have this beautiful E minor 9 sound with a minor 2nd in the middle. But when we play it all together, Just sounds absolutely beautiful. Let's take a moment to appreciate that. It's just so absolutely beautiful. I want to hang here all day, but we can't. We got some more chords we got to go through. The next chord takes that same idea, just moves the A string up to the 3rd fret. Now it's a type of C chord. Listen to this. We're going to have to appreciate that one as well. Very, very nice chords here. John Petrucci really pulled out all the stops on this one. I love this chord progression. This has the same minor second dissonance between the F sharp and the G, but the entire chord function, not really the function, but the tonality changes because of the C being on the bottom. We now have a sharp 4, which is indicative of Lydian. We have the 5th and the 9th. So this is really a 9 with a sharp 11th. Another 9/11, but the 11th is sharp, so I think we're safe to not be destroyed by the YouTube algorithm here. Check it out. Very nice sound. We continue that back to the B minor chord using the same voicing, but this time we have a slight variation. Check it out. We actually go up to the high E string, the open E string, after the G. So we have a root 5th, a flatted 6th, the 11th, which is the E up top, and then to the flatted 3rd on the B string, right? Very nice sound. And all 3 of those chords, when played together, very nice. C, and then B minor, flat 6, and the 11th. Very, very beautiful progression right there. Now, let's just take a look right here what happens with those 3 chords. When we have the 2, 4, 0, 3 on top of an E, we create an E minor 9 chord. When we have 3, 4, 0, 3 like this, we have a C9 with a sharp 11th, or a sharp 4, whichever you want to call it. Very nice as well. And this B minor is a B minor 11th with a flatted 6. So that's a very interesting way to go about this. And that all culminates into the final chord, which is basically just a D sus4 resolving back. So check this out, ready? Now we've seen that in plenty of songs. We've seen it in Stairway to Heaven. We've seen it in every classic rock song imaginable, right? Little Queen. Okay, totally different context though. We have with that little syncopation at the end. So there's not really much to say about that. Now with all that in mind, let's play through both of those repeats on the E minor section. Ready? We got the regular E minor. C sus2, same rhythm. Little break, D sus2, lick. E minor 9, C9 sharp 11, E minor with the 11 and flat 6, D sus2. I love these acoustic arpeggios. It's like a pillow on a cloud. In the air, on a giant couch. But relaxation time is over, because now it's time to switch into high gain, both on the guitar and on James Labrie. Underneath this high energy metamorphosis is a power chord rhythm supported by the bass and the drums. Just hard stabs on power chords. 2 on E, then this little lead up to C. A, B, C, 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 C. Okay, C, C. See that's the note that you gotta play. You gotta do it twice as well. 2 C's. And then one big old B sus2 right there. And it's the same exact chords as before. And then we have to flip over this position, 5/7 on the E string instead of the A string. Okay, so I'm doing that because it's easier to access the power chord on D. And we'd only have one D right there, okay? That comes around to repeat again. So we hit 2 E's one more time. 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, C. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, And then we go like this. Adding in the A string gradually as we build up that D chord. Watch that again. Palm mute, A string, right into an E power chord to start up the guitar solo. And let's not forget that excellent drum fill that Mike Portnoy plays at the very end of that build. Check this out. And that drum fill, of course, leads us into the guitar solo of Another World, my personal favorite from A Change of Seasons. Let's take a listen to the first half, and I'll meet you on the other side. Before we hit the lead, let's take a look at the rhythm guitar. The rhythm is made up of the same old chords, just played as straight up power chords, right? So we're actually doing this E with the dotted rhythm, and then C sus2, but we're just holding it out this time. B, 2, 3, hit on beat 4, move along. Just 3 regular Ds. Same deal. C sus2, that's the flat at 6, blah blah. Minor 5, hit on 4, boom. So no arpeggios or any funny business like that. We're just playing the straight up power chords, nice and chunky, rock and roll, man. Well, guess what? That leads us into a set, or supports, I should say, a set of very nice melodic bends that happen on the top. So let's check those out. First lick goes like this. So beautiful, it almost makes you want to cry. In fact, I am crying, you just can't see my tears because I'm incapable of showing them. But check this out, we're going to go like this. We're going to slide into the 9th fret, that's the root note E. Okay, so that's on top of the E minor chord. This next one is anticipating the C chord, but we're going to bend a whole step on the 10th fret of the B like this. A pretty quick bend as well. Now what's interesting about this note is that we're bending up to a B, which is the perfect 5th of the E minor chord. That makes sense. But we're actually coming down to an A, which is a 6 on top of a C, so that makes that a C6. We then come down to this resolution. It's a half step bend this time at the 7th fret of the B. Same rhythm. Now this is on top of the B minor chord, so we're basically playing around with the perfect 5th and the flatted 6 coming back down. So a little bit of tension that we're playing with, a little bit of fire if you know what I'm talking about. And then this last big bend is a whole step down at the 3rd fret like this. That resolves into the D chord, okay? So this is the root note D. That's an E, that's a 9th going right down there like that, boom, 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 boom. Bowling for whatever the heck we're doing. Okay, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. 3, 5, 3. That's 1, 2, 1. D, E, D. D, E, D, as in dead. Just like I'm going to be after this solo because it's so damn beautiful. Now, this I believe was originally played on a slide. It actually sounds like that in the recording if you listen to the isolated tracks. However, John Petrucci never plays it with a slide. He's always using bends, and every single live performance I've ever seen, that's what he's doing, so I'm going to go off of that. Master Petrucci says we must do, we must do. The next set of chords sees more melodic motion, but this time we're ascending a little bit higher. So we come back into that same E root note, but this time we're sliding from the 2nd to the 4th on the G, coming into the E. Alright, so this is perfect 4th, 5th root. Very nice. Then we do this nice bend here. Check this out. This is on top of the C chord, by the way. It's kind of a very unique take on something we've heard plenty of times. How many times have you heard this in Freebird? Right? It's like taking that nice southern rock lick and moving it into this very beautiful, elegant line. It's another way of playing that exact same thing. Now, as per usual, there are some concerning notes involved on top of this C chord here. So this bend, we're going to the major 7th, and then into the 9th. Okay, so nothing crazy there. Major 7 to 9, C major 9, all good. We then pull root 7, and then we come down to 6. Now it's not a 69, but it's a 96. And I think a 96 is probably even more disgusting than a 69. It's probably unfathomable. Even to my brain, my disgusting perverted mind can't even wrap my head around what a 96 would be. I think only John Myung knows how to perform this. Anyway, that brings us up to the 14th fret with this nice half-step bend into this lick. A very beautiful lick indeed, continuing with the theme. We start off on the 14th fret with a half-step bend and release. Just like that. That's F sharp to G to F sharp, okay? Now that's on top of the B minor chord. So we're basically doing the same resolutions we did on the bottom. That's the 5 to the flat 6 to the 5 on top of the B minor. Then we come down to this. That's a D. That's the flat 3rd. Very, very, very nice. And all of this can be played on top of a D major as well, which is the next chord that comes along. So we're anticipating the start of the D major, but playing it on top of B minor first. Excellent stuff. We then top it off with this big bend, and this nice D sus4 lick, which we actually saw in the Darkest of Winters. Remember this? Yeah, we actually saw that in the previous song, but here we're playing it nice and slowly and melodically, and I think much better. Don't kill me after saying that. I know that The Darkest of Winters is a great song. However, this, I think, is even better. I like this kind of stuff. I love it when John Petrucci plays these tasteful solos. But yeah, we're basically going out of that bend. Very big, full step bend on the 17th fret. That's hitting the root note of the B in anticipation to release down to the D major, sus4, G, F sharp, that's 4 to 3, root 5. Totally normal. That's kind of like comfortably numb right there. And then, same thing down the octave at the 12th, 11th, whoa, that was a mess up, 12th, 11th, sliding into it, and then the 12th of the D string. That's the root note, sliding out of it, preparing us to get into the second half of the guitar solo, which, by the way, modulates hard into C sharp, just like that other part did earlier. Check this out, the second half. Now, did you notice something about the first note that's played? I'll play the entire lick, see if you notice what I'm talking about. Very, very nice. Now, going back to what I just said, that first note is the same note that we started the first section of the solo on, right? Alright, but this time we're in C sharp minor, so that E in context is now the minor third. So we've basically taken the E from being the root sounding like this, right? Hear how the E is on top? Listen to it on top of a C sharp. That's how we can shift things very, very, very smoothly and sneakily, okay? So E minor, E on top, and then to the C sharp minor. That reminds me of something from Final Fantasy VII. It is the same thing, it's just a half step down. Pretty cool. Now let's get into the lick. We slide into the 9th fret like this, which is the minor third now. And then we do this half step bend on the 8th fret just below it. Okay, so real quick. And then we come down to the 9th fret of the D string. Now, what's happening here is we're setting up a C minor 9. Okay, so we had an E minor 9 earlier. Why not have a C minor 9 here? Flat third, 9th, flat 7th. And then we scale up like this with a triplet. Same deal, but now we're on the A chord, so that's the 5th of the A, and we're coming down to the sharp 4th, which is the Lydian mode, okay? So, Lydian to the 6th. Now as we're seeing, the 5th, the sharp 4, the 6th. These are very, very, very common notes that are used on top of the Lydian mode, so take notes on that. Come up to that F sharp, and then we hit this bend like this. Now that's on top of the F sharp minor, okay? So when we play that like this, that's just a flat 3, 2 to 1. With a little hammer on, of course. So that's the minor version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. You gotta learn your Mary Had a Little Lambs on every single chord, alright? So after this nice resolution, back into F sharp, we hit this crazy C sharp minor pentatonic thing. It's not really that crazy, not by Petrucci standards, but it is the most technically difficult portion of this entire solo. And it goes like this, ready? So it's not that crazy, but it could be hard to hear what's going on with everything else playing. So we start that off with a whole step bend on the 12th fret of the B string like this. And then a fast note on the 9th fret, which is the root note up top there on the E string. And then another pull off like this. So we're going. That's all in one beat, by the way, okay? Okay, before we hit beat 2. Now beat 2, we're going to land like this. Okay, and that 9th fret is going to be beat 3, but all those notes in between have to be played before we get there. So try this, ready? So we're on the 12th fret of the G, that's the blue note. Very bluesy when you play it like that. Jingle bells, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll go like this. Okay, so you got 12, 9, and then pulling off to the 9th fret like that. Very bluesy motion. And then hitting 2 11th frets like this. Those are almost like 8th notes. They feel like 8th notes anyway. And then that hard downbeat on the 9th fret. So in total, 1, 2, 3. All of that within 3 counts, okay? And you want to make sure you hit that 9th on that hard downbeat, otherwise the phrasing is not going to feel right at all. One more time. That immediately comes up into the last portion, which comes up higher on the neck. We're actually at the 16th fret of the G, like this. We're sliding up and going to the 17th of the B. Alright, so this is outlining almost like an E major idea, but really we're doing a C sharp minor 7. So, okay, coming up to the F sharp down to the E. And then we have this. So we're hammering from the 17th to the 19th fret of the B, and then picking on the 16th. Same motion as before. We're still creating that C sharp minor 9 with the flat 7. All the same notes, but we're up the octave now with a little variation. Triplet, that's all the same too. And then we're coming up to the 19th fret on the high E string. Alright, watch that again. We're going 17, 19, perfect 5th up. And then playing around with that half step hammer-on pull-off on the 16th and 17th. This is on top of the A chord, so this is a Lydian motion, okay? Then right out of that we hit the set of triplets like this. All alternate picked, right? No legato here, alternate picking. Then a hammer into this melodic note. That's the same thing we saw in the F sharp minor earlier. Flat 3, 9, or 2 to 1. And then we set up the B major chord with this. We do a nice trill, a nice Brian May style trill right on there, as if we're playing in Bohemian Rhapsody. Very fast. You got to play it like 30-second notes, maybe even a little faster than that. And that's just going between the major 3rd and the 4th. So we're doing like a B sus4 type of idea. Now the B is the flat 7th chord on the C sharp. Remember that. Then when you call down here, it almost reminds me of this. That sort of classic blues line, but we're doing this instead. That's totally different though. We don't have the minor 3rd. We have a major 2nd going from the 18th to the 16th and then down like this. Alright, so just look at that. And that's hitting the flat 7th of the B chord, which is kind of cool. We finish all of that with this little hammer-on thing, going in 3rds, pulling off, and then sliding back into the root note. So here it is. Very, very, very nice sound, right? Just to cap it off. It's almost like one of those going down a scale in thirds exercises. You know what I'm talking about? Sounds very similar to that, but that's how it ends. So here's that entire lick. Very, very, very nice. So I explained how we got to C sharp from E minor, but now I have to explain the opposite. That last lick that we played, that C sharp minor scale in thirds, sets up a resolution at the end from D sharp to E. Okay, now the D sharp to E is the 2 in the flat third of the C sharp minor, or more specifically, the major third of the B chord that it's on top of, okay? Just like that, going to an E chord. Now, this D sharp makes the B a major 5 chord, a pivot chord back to E minor, just like we saw earlier in the song, okay, with those arpeggios, but this time it's with the lead on top, so that D sharp is now a T to a Do, which is E, a T-Do relationship for anybody that's experienced with solfege, alright, so once again, a very nice resolution to get us back and smoothly into the key of E minor for the ending of the song. Oh, come let us adore these final chords. This progression is exactly the same as all of the other E minor progressions we saw. It's still E minor, C, B minor to D, okay? This time with the high gain channel on once again. It's very similar to the introduction, but with some very, very, very slight differences that I'll explain along the way. The first E chord of this section breaks the trend of being down here. We're actually going to be at the 7th fret of the A string, okay? With the open E on the bottom, so it's a pretty big power chord again, but we're in a different position. The reason why we're here is because we slid up into the B chord from the solo, and in order to smoothly get to an E chord, we got to come right up here. 7-9-9 with the open E on the bottom. Hold that out for 3 counts. On beat 4 we do this. Slide into a C sus2. Alright, so pretty basic, just a little bit of syncopation there. We then hit the B chord like this. A little bit of syncopation there too, but nothing crazy. Then when we hit the D chord, we do something similar to the second time around on the introduction. Watch this. Back to the 7th string. Alright, so that's the second time we used the B string on here. And it's been a pretty damn long time since we used it the first time. But one more time. D power chord. And the third one goes all the way down to the B string. Remember to slide back to the E power chord. That's a big E power chord just like we played before. Same exact syncopation there. Quarter note rhythm. But we hit an extra one right there, okay? That doesn't happen earlier. Now we go back to the C sus2 that we saw the very first time in the introduction, like this. Wow, it's been a while since we've seen that one, but thank goodness we're repeating something for once. We're just flipping it around in the order here. Then we hit the B sus2 like this. Alright, so that's just going up the power chord, and then skipping up to the high E string, hitting the B power chord on the 4th fret like we always do. Every time you hit that B power chord, you gotta hit it on beat 4 before you go into the next chord, which by the way is a D with a sus4 resolution, which we go through the entire measure there, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Before we hit the ending, which by the way is not in a measure of 4, of course not. It's Dream Theater. We have to change time signatures at least once, right? And it saves it to the very last bar to do that. It's now a double timed measure of 3-4, like this. 1 and 2 and ba-bop. Alright, and that ba-bop is the first beat of the next track, okay? Or not the next track, the next part of the suite. We go like this. 1 and 2 and 3, and you want to slide out, and you want to make sure it's muted. it stops. The sound stops after that. 3, 5, 3, 5, B. And that's just using a single note D and an E to modulate down to B minor. So one more time on that. And of course we can't go any further because we have reached the end of part 5, which in fact is the end of this video. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, this installation of Let's Learn a Change of Seasons. All of these have been really fun so far, and I was kind of scared to go into this at first because it's such a monstrous track. A lot of depth, a lot of meaning, a lot of notes to cover, but splitting it up like this actually makes it way, way, way easier for me to conquer it, and it also allows me to go more in-depth to help you guys out. Now, of course, if you want to support the channel even further, go to www.subscribestar.com/RomanOvamusic. You can donate any amount of money you wish. The $20 option will get you access to the RomanOva Guitar Gym, which is basically just a video series that I create exclusively for that tier of patrons, okay? And it's all exercises, it's theory, it's stuff to sharpen up your skills. You can also sign up for lessons on my website, www.romanovamusic.com. You can hit the big red button. Or if you want help producing a song, remember this analysis is part of song production as well. So I like doing a lot of arranging for people. I like doing a lot of writing for people, okay? I'm involved heavily with that sector of the music biz, as they say. Alright, you could also leave a tip on my PayPal tip jar. There's a lot of ways you could support the channel. You can even just leave a comment. Leave a comment. Very simple comment. A nice one or a mean one. I don't care. Positive or negative. I want to hear all of your opinions. But that's about it, everybody. I'm going to meet you on part 6, which is the inevitable summer. Big time guitar solo right there. But until then, I will see you later. Peace.